Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Board of Education meeting. The board has already met in executive session, and we did salute the flag at that time. So with that, if we could have a roll call, Mr. McLaughlin?
Mr. Salmon.
Here.
Ms. Schaefer.
Here.
Ms. Beckman.
Here.
Mrs. White.
Here.
Mrs. McCune.
Here.
Ms. Singh.
Here.
Mrs. Korn.
Here.
Ms. Hira.
Here.
Mr. Markarian.
Here.
Mr. Syatt.
Here.
Ms. Fox.
Here.
Mrs. Gray.
Here.
Madam President, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McLaughlin. Mrs. McCune has kindly offered to read the statement of public notice for me this evening because I'm having a little issue with my eye. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, I'm going to just read through the statement of public notice. This is a regular meeting of the Board of Education of Bernards Township. Notice of the time and place of the meeting was provided, and copies of that resolution were forwarded to the official newspapers as designated by the Board of Education and to the Township Clerk, and a copy of the notice was posted on the bulletin board of the Board of Education offices in accordance with Public Law 1975. Due to the pandemic, the Board of Education expects that in-person attendees to this meeting have completed and passed a self-assessment of personal health, done at home, wear a face covering pursuant to the Executive Order 251, sit in a socially distanced manner from members of different households, and maintain social distancing if waiting in line to make public comment. For those members of the public who are unable to attend our meeting in person, there are 2 live stream links of the meeting posted through the district website, www.bernardsboe.com. The 2 live stream links are both airing during our meeting. Each simply backs up the other in case of technical difficulty. We very much welcome input from the public. There are 2 times during regular meetings that the public is invited to speak. One time is early in the meeting before the board votes, when you may speak about any item that is listed on tonight's agenda. Towards the end of the meeting, there is another public forum to address any matter of public concern related to the schools. When you approach the microphone, please state your name and address. Each statement shall be limited to 3 minutes duration. No participant may speak more than once during a given public comment session. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer. No participant may address or question board members individually. For those members of the public who are not attending in person, public comments may be submitted via email. Please follow the instructions below. Starting at 7 o'clock, email your comment to btconnect@bernardsboe.com or text your comment to 908-292-3047. Use public comment as the email subject or start of a text message. Indicate your first and last name and address. This is required for your public comment to be included. Public comments made in person will be processed first, and then the comments submitted will be read. No public comments sent via email will be accepted before 7 or after item, I'm bad with my 18, board forum of the agenda begins. Please understand that public comment portions of our agendas are not structured as question and answer sessions, but rather they are offered as opportunities to share your thoughts with the board. The board may or may not respond to public comments. Any board responses to public comments will generally be addressed during board forum or during committee reports. However, all comments are considered and will be investigated and addressed as appropriate. Please be courteous and mindful of the rights of others when speaking. Comments may not be abusive, obscene, threatening, or irrelevant. Please understand that students and employees have specific legal and privacy protections. The board is not permitted to respond in public to comments about students and employees. Please also understand that the board will not be responsible for the content of comments made by members of the public. Members of the public are cautioned that they are speaking at their own risk, and any personally directed statements that they make may subject them to legal liability to the affected individual. If it is necessary for the board to go into executive session at the end of the meeting, we will provide an estimated time of length for the session and whether any action is anticipated to be taken upon returning to public session.
Thank you very much, Mrs. McCune. Our next item is the Student Representatives Report. Gordon.
Thank you, and good evening, everyone. As Ridge approaches the end of its first marking period, everyone has been excitedly tying up our loose ends and preparing for the next chapter of the school year. In a final echo back to our very successful Spirit Week, the student government hosted its annual Halloween costume contest with some incredibly memorable and creative entries, including a giant Among Us inflatable costume and multiple full-body penguin suits. Additionally, as is usually the case, the past 2 weeks have been especially busy for our student athletes and coaches, who many of Ridge's sports teams participated in their team's playoffs in the past 2 weeks or so. Ridge, of course, extends its congratulations to all of the players, parents, and coaches for their successful fall season, and we wish our winter sports teams the best of luck as they look ahead to their practices and games. Finally, Ridge also applauds the forensics team for their second-place overall win at the Phillipsburg Fall Invitational, with Ridge students winning first place in multiple speech and debate events. As the days get shorter and the nights get longer, Ridge looks forward to continuing to uphold its values of community, spirit, and character as we enter marking period 2. Thank you.
Thank you, Gordon. Does anyone have any questions for Gordon? Okay, you know the drill, Gordon. You're welcome. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you.
A comment, not a question. The Board of Education in prior years before the pandemic would always meet with the student government, usually twice a year, and try to talk to all the different representatives from the different grades. So, Mr. Markarian, do you think that we could try to line up a meeting with the student government representatives that are available so we can get some feedback? Oh, thanks.
Anyone else? Go ahead, Gordon.
Yep. Absolutely. I think that we would be very open to that. I think a lot of the people in student government absolutely are interested in meeting with members of the board, and I think that we would be very much on board, and we can definitely arrange that for the future.
I'm glad you brought it up, Mrs. McKeon. For board members who were not with us pre-pandemic, which seems like a lifetime ago now, we did do this at least twice a year in this space prior to a public board meeting, and it was always really informative and thought-provoking, and the kids have a lot of great insights to share, so I definitely look forward to being able to do that again.
Especially about the food in the cafeteria.
It's always about the food. Well, thank you again, Gordon, and as you know, you're welcome to stay, but you are also most welcome to head home. Okay, so now we're up to our superintendent's report. We do have one item. We need a motion, right? Can we have a motion for item 1? Mrs. McCune and Mrs. Korn? Apologies, everybody. I didn't realize you were moving when I said that. Everybody good? Okay, Mr. Markarian. We do have, Mr. McLaughlin, did you hear what I said? Mrs. McCune and Mrs. Korn for the motion? Okay, thank you. Mr. Markarian.
So I don't know if you guys noticed, but I'm looking at the two clubs. There was the Ridge Career Experience Club and the Ridge Forensics Linguistic Club. And I've lost access in this lovely Google Doc system to the Ridge Forensics Linguistics Club, so I'd be guessing on the details of that one. The Ridge Career Experience Club, we do have an advisor for. We have the minimum number of students, and the purpose of the Ridge Career Experience Club is to educate club members about career paths and to give advice regarding future choices the students will have to make. This club will increase student awareness of their own future paths and goals, which sounds great because it's right up the alley of one of our district goals. So I would definitely like to recommend that we move forward with this one. And I'd like to suggest that perhaps we table the next one until the next meeting so that I can get those details to you because I've been locked out of that one. So we would just be doing the Ridge Career Experience Club tonight. What's that? That's it.
Mr. McLaughlin, can we please have a roll call on the second club in item 1?
Mr. Salmon,
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer,
Yes.
Ms. Beckman,
Yes.
Mrs. White,
Yes.
Ms. Singh,
Yes.
Mrs. Korn,
Yes.
Ms. Hira,
Yes.
Mrs. McCune,
Yes.
Mrs. Gray,
Yes?
Madam President.
Thank you. Our next item is public comment on agenda items. If you would like to make a public comment, we welcome you up to the microphone. Please state your name and address for the record, and please try to keep your comments to 3 minutes. Thank you. Okay, so I don't see any public comment in person. Do we have any email public? Did we lose Ms. Fox? No, okay, we do not have any email public comment. And I actually remembered without prompting this time. Okay, so then we are now up to the approval of minutes. If we could have a motion, please. Mrs. White and Mr. Salmon, and a roll call, please, or Mr. McLaughlin.
Mr. Salmon,
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer,
Yes.
Ms. Beckman,
Yes.
Mrs. White,
Yes.
Ms. Singh,
Yes.
Mrs. Korn,
Yes.
Ms. Hira,
Yes.
Mrs. McCune,
Yes.
Mrs. Gray,
Yes,
Madam President.
thank you. With that, we are up to the Finance Committee report. Mr. Salmon?
We're meeting next week. On the agenda tonight is number 1 is just a standing item, and number 2 is professional development.
Oh, apologies, I forgot to ask for a motion.
Oh.
Anybody? Mrs. Korn and Mrs. McCune? And then a roll call, please, Mr. McLaughlin.
Mr. Salmon,
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer,
Yes.
Ms. Beckman,
Yes.
Mrs. White,
Yes.
Ms. Singh,
Yes.
Mrs. Korn,
Yes.
Ms. Hira,
Yes.
Mrs. McCune,
Yes.
Mrs. Gray,
Yes,
Madam President.
thank you. Our next item is the Personnel Committee report. We have items 1 through 20. Mr. Salmon, and a second on that, please? Anybody? Mrs. McCune? And then, no, and then do you have a report, Mrs. McCune?
No, we're meeting next week.
Right. Okay, thank you. And Mr. McLaughlin, could we please have a roll call?
Mr. Salmon,
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer,
Yes.
Ms. Beckman,
Yes.
Mrs. White,
Yes.
Ms. Singh,
Yes.
Mrs. Korn,
Yes.
Ms. Hira,
Yes.
Mrs. McCune,
Yes.
Mrs. Gray,
Yes,
Madam President.
thank you. Our next item is the Policy Committee report. Mrs. Korn?
We just met today, so I'll be reporting out next time. So there's no report right now.
Sounds great, thank you. And we're up to the Curriculum Committee report. Mrs. White?
Yes, we actually had an extra meeting last week, and it was to do our QSAC DPR review. Every 3 years, the district performs the state-required self-assessment. It stands for Quality, Single Accountability Continuum, and we last did this in 2018 and 19. Ms. Fox reviewed all the curriculum related to the indicators with the committee. She also stated that they may write into law a waiver process for QSAC, which would allow districts to skip the next 3-year cycle. And if the state does enact a waiver law, the administration will review it to determine whether the district qualifies. And then we are having our next meeting this Friday.
Any questions for Mrs. White? Okay, now we are up to our Wellness Committee report. Ms. Schaefer?
Yes, so the Wellness Committee met on October 28th, and we had a nice discussion about a variety of things. The first item was the Ridge High School Wellness Program. We went over again information that I know Dr. Lazovic, oh my gosh, talked about the last time and presented the Ridge High School Wellness Program to the Board of Ed. So we had some information about that. There's another coming program. Not only is there going to be another tea time event in November, but there's also going to be a November event for all students. And the focus of the month for November and the program will be on honesty and trustworthiness. The wellness activities will revolve around honesty and integrity with a focus on confidence and authenticity, including connecting ourselves to our values. In April, they'll be looking forward to yet another whole school program on responsibility and commitment. So we've all been hearing about the great programs. I encourage everyone to attend one of the tea time events. The second item was on in-service planning and in-services that are coming up. We had a report about the October 2nd in-service. Amy Eva from the Greater Good Science Center, which is out of UC Berkeley, came and spoke to two different audiences. First, she met with the elementary teachers and then all the secondary teachers. They talked about mindfulness, character ed, SEL, and feedback from faculty about comfort level with discussing those topics. The November in-service, which will be next Wednesday, the 17th, there'll be sessions including technology, professional development, the rotating drop schedule debrief at the high school. There's going to be some building-specific sessions on rotating drop, for example, and other, obviously, they're not going to talk about rotating drop at the elementary schools. But, and then there's going to be a closing and opening around the theme of tending to yourself. The next thing we heard about was summer projects update, which we were supposed to hear about at the meeting before, but it ran far too late. So the summer projects updates in the counseling areas included a K through 12 counseling program evaluation. So they're on their 2-year cycle. They finished their first year of their evaluation. The last time they had an evaluation of the whole program was in 2015. They spent 5 days this summer doing research, collecting data, and they're doing some internal evaluation as well as collecting information about other districts. One idea that came out was creating a matrix of lessons by months related to wellness, which was some of the wellness issues that the SACs, the student counselors facilitate, for example, include suicide. They are creating a cohesive document of counseling, wellness, and character education initiatives, and that is expected to be finished by the end of the evaluation. They talked about evaluating the post-secondary planning. There's now a user-friendly Google site instead of the PDF packet, so the old college packet is now in a PDF. And it's not just college, it has career planning, trade and vocational schools, and military information. And you can see the link. And we also learned about the middle school group counseling program. So the middle school has done some really age-appropriate middle school group programming, which again, for middle school students, it's all about group work and peers. So they decided to codify a little bit of their program, aligning it with the national standards and CASEL competencies. They've got various topics which are age and developmentally appropriate for middle learners. They're talking group work with social learning, which is the whole point because it's so important for middle learners, is social environments. And they've created lesson plans for groups so that they can create these lesson plans and transfer them to each counselor as they're needed. So they can use these plans as counselors rotate through the age levels because the counselors in the middle school are now looping, which means that they're staying with a class. So the counselor who starts with the 6th graders will move up with 7th grade and 8th grade and then move back down to 6th. They are creating, goals, mindsets, behaviors, audience evaluation. They're talking about evaluating the programs and creating actual lesson plans, and they're really exciting. So that group, the work continues to create that sort of comprehensive curriculum. We had a brief discussion about how counseling is ready to support students if they need it, no matter what situations arise. And we had an initial discussion on later start times for the middle school and high school. We do need to keep researching this with our busing issues, but what is best for students from a wellness perspective. We're looking at the advantages and disadvantages, and looking at this for September 2023. So not this fall, but next, if we were to implement. And our next meeting is this Thursday, November 11th.
Any questions for Ms. Schaefer? Thank you for all that great information. Our next item is liaison committee reports. Mrs. Korn or Mr. Salmon, do you have anything? Nothing from Mr. Salmon?
Hold on, I have to find my email now. I was just going to remind everyone that the vape, Escape the Vape.
Jen, can you do us a favor? Just pull it a little closer.
Sorry.
That's okay.
It's Escape the Vape 2.0 from Empower Somerset. And there's I don't know if they posted this on the Friday folder website, like the district website or not, but you can click through, you can register. It's a Zoom event, and it's, I mentioned it last time. It's on November 11th, Thursday, November 11th, and I'm sure if you go to the Empower Somerset website, that you can find this, or just Google Escape the Vape 2.0, and it's so it's more than 5 million U.S. middle and high school students used e-cigarettes in the past 30 days. It's from the FDA. And young people in the U.S. are more than 4 times more likely to try cigarettes and 3 times more likely to smoke regularly if they have already used vaping products. And that's from the Truth Initiative. So this is a virtual discussion on the dangers of vaping, Juul, and the other tobacco products. And we have a speaker, Rob Holliday, who's been featured on TV, radio, and a variety of news outlets. He's an internationally in-demand youth motivational speaker who presents to hundreds of thousands around the U.S. and Canada. So it's Thursday, November 11th from 6 to 7:30, and you can register online, and it'll give you a Zoom link. So it's all virtual. It's a Zoom. It's open to middle and high school students and their parent or caregiver. The youth must be accompanied by an adult. So I just wanted to throw out in case anyone was interested in that. I'm sorry I don't have the link. There's no website link, but you could probably Google it and find it. And that was it.
Thank you. Okay, with that, we are up to public comment on non-agenda items. We invite anyone who's here in the auditorium with us to come up to the microphone. Please state your name and address, and then also record it on the sign-in sheet. And with that, we welcome you.
Hello. Neslahan Montag, M-O-N-T-A-G, 41 Essex Place. Here again regarding the continued danger at the Essex Valley corner bus stop. I know the board remembers that you had already resolved this problem and you can still implement the solution at any time. But Mr. Markarian had asked us to provide some background information on the matter. And we did that hoping we could help the board better understand the issue to address it properly. But frankly, we're more concerned than ever. We're told the board discussed the matter on October 25th and affirmed moving the stop to the corner instead of keeping it safely down the street where you had already put it years ago. And of course, we're not privy to those discussions since they're behind closed doors and not on public record. So we haven't seen any real basis for this decision, and we'd like to understand the rationale, especially since you're now stripping away the safety measures you previously put in place to protect these children. And this is a safety issue. Nothing's changed. The corner's still just as dangerous as it was when you moved the stop away, and now you're forcing the kids to wait still, right back there, with no rational basis or explanation as to why. Mr. Markarian, in your emails, you had cited some items possibly bearing on this issue. So we submitted an OPRA request for documents pertaining to those specific items, among others, but the administrator's office has refused to produce anything. not one piece of paper in response to 30 specific itemized requests. For example, you had cited best practices as taught in the Rutgers School Transportation Supervision Certification Program. So we asked to see those program materials that you referenced, but the administrator refused to provide them. So you're citing a supposed safety standard, but you're refusing to provide that standard. You'd also specifically directed us to other factors, like observations of traffic conditions, parked vehicles. So again, we asked for any documents pertaining to them, specifically tailored to the items you listed, literally tracking your language word for word in some cases, but the administrator claimed those requests were too vague, and again, refused to produce a single document. So you can see where this is going. To cite these factors as supposed standards and then refuse to produce any documents publicly regarding them is obviously very problematic, especially when it involves an issue as important as public safety of children. I could go on and on. These are just a few examples, and we're willing to assume this was an oversight, and maybe someone just misread the request or didn't read it carefully enough. Either way, obviously it's a problem, since OPRA requires production of responsive records and the public is entitled to them by law. So we are willing to work with you. If you need clarification, just say so. We can even consider revising the request if that might help you better understand it and properly respond. But just hiding behind a blanket denial and refusing to produce a single document is not acceptable. So we're asking the board to look at the request. Sure. Sure. So we're just asking you to remember, documents aside, obviously we're still entitled to the documents, so we would like you to please produce them. This is at bottom still a safety issue, and we're hopeful that you take it seriously. We know you come from a very different perspective, sitting up on a stage behind a dais with your children safely protected, but us down here having to go to that bus stop every day with our children at risk, it's a very different scene. So we, again, urge you, we know you're working hard to resolve all these problems this year. Sorry, I'm out of breath. But we really would appreciate your taking a look at this and responding properly to our OPRA request. Thank you.
Seeing no one else from the audience here in the pack, Ms. Fox, do we have any email comments?
Yes, we do. Doug Hewlin, 73 Queen Anne Drive, Basking Ridge, New Jersey. In the run-up to the recent school board election, candidates were asked about their position on the continuation of forced masking at Bernards Township schools. Some responded that they understood that masks were annoying, but they hoped that they would be a temporary issue. Unfortunately, from the recent statements of public health officials, the answer is clear that they intend to keep masks hanging over our children's heads indefinitely. Yesterday, the governor seemed to suggest that getting kids vaccinated could be a way to end masking, but a couple days prior, the director of the CDC had already said that masks are an effective tool against the spread of the flu and even the common cold. Clearly, she wants to condition us to accept them as permanent. Leave aside the morally repugnant idea that parents might be coerced into choosing to inject their kids with still experimental medicines just for the possibility that their teachers and friends could see their faces again. We are being subjected to a continual bait and switch with the mental and physical health of our kids hanging in the balance. Most of us have lost faith in these public officials who are constantly saying one thing and doing another, moving the goalposts with little concern for the impact on our children. Mr. Superintendent and board members, you can no longer evade responsibility for these decisions that affect our kids every day. It is a cop-out to say that you could do nothing because of the governor's executive order. If the election results from last week should show you anything, it's that his executive order is extremely unpopular with New Jersey parents. We understand that this is a tough moment, but you will have to rise to meet it. You will have to find the courage to be a voice for parents and children's rights in this town, or you should find the courage to look us in the eye and tell us that you have no intention to fight on our behalf. At least be honest either way. Hello, my name is Nancy Margulis, and I live at 14 Essex Place in Basking Ridge. Please read the below comment at tonight's BOE meeting. To the board members, I am unable to be there this evening due to lack of childcare help but would like my comment read and put on record. I live on Essex Place, and my son's bus stop for William Annan was changed this year to the corner of Valley Road and Essex Place. My husband and I have submitted numerous requests for this stop to be moved back to its original location on Essex Place due to safety concerns. Our last email was sent to Janet Luboska with all board members copied, including Mr. Markarian, on 10/2. This email has gone unanswered. The buses for Liberty Corner School, WAMS, and Ridge have been coming onto Essex Place for years without incident. Due to the bus stops being changed this year to the corner of Valley Road and Essex Place, we now need to stand with our son every morning as cars fly by in excess of 50 miles an hour in an effort to make the traffic light at the corner of Mount Airy Road. The entrance to Essex Place is also right near the intersection of Valley Road and Spring Valley, where a serious accident recently occurred, causing major injuries and resulted with the vehicle ending on the lawn of the house across the street from the bus stop. Combining the excessive speed at which cars are routinely traveling with the two busy intersections I have just noted above is a recipe for disaster. Conducting a simple evaluation of posted speed limit, which goes mostly ignored, sight distance, etc., is not enough in this situation. This is a unique downhill section of Valley Road, and your evaluation is not factoring in these two nearby intersections, nor the traffic light on a main commuting artery. We are extremely uncomfortable with this, and we do not feel that this is a safe place for our children to wait for a school bus. We are not asking for anything unreasonable, nor are we asking you to come up with a solution to a new problem. The solution is there already. It has been there for years. We simply implore you to change the bus stops back onto Essex Place for our children's safety, where the stops have been for the past 8 years. Neslahan Montag has been kind enough to speak on behalf of both of us at the past couple meetings. Please know that we share all of these concerns and remain worried about our children each and every day. We urge you to reconsider this matter. Respectfully, Nancy Margulis. And let me see. That is the only comments.
Thank you, Ms. Fox. Mr. Markarian, is there anything you'd like to add? Okay. With that, we are up to board forum. Board members? Ms. Corn.
Hi. I'm not really sure where to start here because I'm going to take this because I can't speak. I need to see my faces. I'm not on social media. I'm not on Facebook. But I'm so disappointed and frankly disgusted by what is being alleged on social media regarding the people up here on the board. I just want to remind people that we live in town, number one. We have kids that go to school here. We have friends, family, our kids read. We all care about children very much, and the fact that people were alleging that or insinuating that we were covering up some kind of sexual assault, I can't even describe my disgust at that kind of, I just can't. I can't even understand how someone could attack someone else from their own town that are volunteers that obviously care for children and would never, ever in a million years do something like that. They're calling out and this is all on social media. No one came here and told us what the problems they're having. No. You go right to social media to gin up some kind of animosity towards people who are elected to represent parents on the board. People who have children in school why would that ever even cross your mind that would be something that people from your own town would do? It boggles my mind. They're calling out the board. They're accosting board members at events that have nothing to do with the board, that they're in their own personal lives. They're saying stuff like they should remember they were on the ballot on Tuesday, saying stuff like we're bullying each other and losing sight and ignoring this terrible thing that happened to kids either in or connected to our community. Shame on them. I mean, shame on us for what? For caring? I mean, someone said, why is an alleged rapist being protected? Like, I am personally offended that anyone would think that anyone up here would have anything to do with covering something like that up. It just, and if you don't have the respect and to come here, and if you have, or go right to the police if you think that's what's going on. I mean, for Christ's sake, don't start rumors on Facebook where other people don't even know what you're talking. Then they're like, oh yeah, oh my gosh, imagine that. Imagine what they're doing. No one's doing anything wrong. All we're trying to do is do the best for children. If things come to our attention, we are legally responsible to report things to police. We are not. We find out things at the same time everyone else does if it does not happen in our district. And the fact that people were calling people out like we had something to do, I just can't. I can't. It makes me sick that's what people would. If you think that low of us up here, then run for the board, and take the places, because obviously we're just bad people. If that's what people are saying this, I mean, someone was standing up for this, and someone said, when you say this, you are complicit in the assaults on these girls. I mean, my God, is this how we talk to each other now? I mean, I just really feel strongly that it's wrong to run and post stuff on social media that you would tell your kids not to do. Because, and I know people are fired up, people are upset, but this is a step too far. I can't. It just, when I was hearing about this and reading this, I was so appalled and taken aback that someone could think that. And even about our administrators who, quite honestly, care so much, they work so hard for us. And they talk about them like they're not even people, like they don't have families and children and care. My God, why would I be here if I didn't care? This is a lot of goddamn work I'm doing, and I'm taking away from my own family time, and you're going to spew this crap on social media. I'm sorry, I can't, and it just, and I had to stand up for everyone here. We might not agree on everything. I am very vocal about my feelings. Everyone knows how I feel about masks. Everyone knows, but it doesn't mean these people are bad people. It doesn't mean that they're less than human, that you can talk about them like this. And it's wrong. Everyone should really take a deep breath and look inside and see if this is what kind of town we want and this is what kind of animosity we want. We're all up for the same thing. We all want the kids to do great, but it's just the wrong way to go about it. You can't accost people. You know, if you have a question, sure, send an email. If you have a concern, come up here. They do get answered. Maybe not everyone, because you know what? Crazy. Some of us have other lives too that we have to take care of, other real big problems in our families, other things that we have to worry about, right? Not only this is hours and hours and hours of work. And I'm not, and hey, I own it. We're on the board, but it's just wrong. It's wrong on so many different levels to attack people in your own town. Maybe you have a dialogue first before you start spewing crap on social media. I just think, personally, I just think we could all use a lesson like that, and it hit me really. People were so upset, and it just, when you think people are thinking that about you, it really takes the air out of your sails, wind out. Why do you want to be up here if that's how people think about you? So that's just, my take.
Mrs. White?
First, I want to thank you very much, Jen Korn, for saying that. We always can count on you to say exactly how you will feel, whether we all agree or not, but we always respect that you will do that. And I think the thing that is the most disturbing is what I've read the past few weeks. If I ever saw my child go on social media and say half of the things that have been posted, that child would get a big talking to, and they would lose every single device that they had, because that is not how children should speak to one another on social media. It borders on cyberbullying for kids. We wouldn't allow it as parents for our kids. If our kids carried on that way in school, they probably would be getting HIBs that would have to be investigated. And we as the adults, we need to set the tone. We need to teach our children what to do, and that means by modeling appropriate behavior. If people have things that they're upset about, there is a forum to come. Come to this mic. You may not like the answer that you get, But you'll get to voice it. If you won't say something to our face, but you'll put it on social media, then you shouldn't be putting it on social media. You shouldn't be making an accusation on social media that you won't come to this microphone and say to each one of us. And unfortunately, what's so sad is when these posts get written, there's so many people, as you can see in this audience, that do not show up. And they have no idea what's going on, but they take it at face value, that what you have written, if you write it, it's true. And that simply is not the case. But what happens is it starts these rumors, and it gets everybody upset, because the bottom line is everybody loves their kids, and everybody wants their kids to be safe in school and outside of school. So when they see some horrible accusation that might lead you to believe your kid is not safe, of course they're going to get upset. But there's a place to get your answers. Send an email. Don't send an email that starts out with an accusation and a threat. Send an email that says, I'm concerned about this. What can you tell me about this? What can you share with the public? We need to start showing civility to one another again. And I hope it starts today.
Thank you to both Mrs. Corn and Mrs. White. In particular, I'm grateful that you brought up the point that we should be the models of how we behave on social media, because our children are watching, and it's not encouraging if that's what they're going to model. I would just add, at this moment in time, I've been on the board for 7.5 years, and I've never shied away from pick up the phone and call me. My phone number is everywhere. If you have a question, call me. I'll try to answer your question. If I don't have the answer, I'll try to find out someone to put you in touch with who does. But in the recent weeks, we've had a number of board emails in which I very expressly put my phone number there so that individuals who reached out with concerns could contact me, and instead saw, continued assault on social media in lieu of that. And I think Jen said it, both Jens said it better than I can bother to repeat it, but we shouldn't be doing that. We live in a community. We're neighbors and friends and parents, and we should be caring about each other, and we should be respecting the fact that not one single person is sitting up here because they don't care, because they're not interested, because they're self-interested. And I hope just as we move forward, we can all try to do better. Anybody else? So if no one has anything else, I guess we're up to adjournment. Mrs. Korn and Ms. Singh. All in favor? Thank you.